Hello and welcome to Let's Read Screenplays. I'm Sven Erik, screenwriter and director from Germany, and I'm right here in the lockdown with you, making the best of it, reading screenplays and staying safe at home. I hope that you are safe and that you have the time to look at screenplays and learn and grow. That's what I'm doing, and I'm reading your screenplays. This live stream is about 1 hour long, and I'm focusing on feature film scripts and the opening 10 pages, which are the most important pages of your script. And I'm reading it, I'm commenting on it, and I'm analyzing what is good, what works, what could be improved, and where are the weaknesses of this script. So today we have a script called SKYSCRAPER by Gregor Vogt and by Orlindo Frick. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you have a script you want to get read next time, then shoot me a message at info@ergocinema.com. I'm open to scripts. I'm open to feature film scripts, but also to short scripts, because then we can maybe analyze a whole script in one session. So, hello Narakiel, the first and the loyal follower. Thank you that you are here, and let's just begin with the script. If you have any questions, just shoot and I'll see when I get to it. Okay, so SKYSCRAPER. I open the title page and the first thing that I see is that SKYSCRAPER is in a different font. It's larger, and there's like a bracket, a form of, what do you call it? A form of design on the first title page. I think the general advice is not to do that if you're just a writer, if all you do is just writing scripts. But if you lean towards creative producer or producer, then maybe this is a way to go. I'm not sure what the circumstances behind the scripts are, but I'm assuming that it's leaning more towards the creative writing background. Tell me if you know, tell me if you're there, Orlindo or Gregor, then we can talk about that later on. Okay, so we have two writers, which is very interesting. It's the first time I got a script by a writing team. Is there the screenplay of the movie with Dwayne Johnson? No, I don't think it's the one with Dwayne Johnson. I think it's a different one. I know which one you mean. You mean Die Hard on a skyscraper, right? Well, that was also on a skyscraper. It was in a building, but yeah. Okay, let's see. First scene, fade in. Exterior Central Park day. Dirt. A blinding ray of sunshine shines on a tiny worm. Then the beak of a female harrier, a long-winged, long-tailed hawk, violently grabs the helpless worm and soars into the clear blue sky. Okay, a very brutal nature opening already. Exterior, 5th Avenue day. The harrier flies along 5th Avenue, the worm still safe in her beak. She gets dangerously close to the ground, but she pulls up along a huge construction site and in time laps the building, grows floor by floor. Reveal, the Empire State Building in its unfinished glory. The year is 1930. Okay, so my first question would be, is the year is 1930 is it superimposed on the scene? Or is this just information for the audience? I'm assuming that it's going to be superimposed on the scene. Very interesting reveal already. Exterior Empire State Building, near the top day. The harrier reaches her nest a few feet below the top. Two baby harriers, half in their shells, try to grab it, but their mother dangles the worm just out of their reach. Their eggshells rock back and forth. Below, the sound of construction work. Several large cranes loaded with heavy steel beams cast a shadow on the nest. One of the steel beams hangs on an old rope, a rope that is about to snap. The two baby birds still try to get the worm. The harrier smiles proudly at her offspring and lets them have the worm. They each grab one end of the worm and start devouring it. Suddenly, an unintelligible scream. "Watch out!" The rope snaps. The beam falls. The harrier looks up and carefully moves the nest a few inches out of the danger. That was close. The steel beam falls and hits another steel beam with a concrete mixer on it. The concrete mixer gets catapulted through the air, falls on the steel beam with the nest on it, and the nest gets catapulted into the sky. Okay, so we already can see that this is a very special kind of writing because we have animal characters and we can assume that this is going to be an animated movie. Of course, I already know that because Orlindo told me beforehand, but we can assume it here that these characters are not regular animals, right? The way it's shot, the way it's framed and stuff like that. Yes, Gregor, great that you're here. One of the writers is present. Thank you very much. If you want to shed some light on the script, on the scenes I'm reading, just shoot ahead, right? It's great that you're here. Okay, I'm continuing with the script. The two hatchlings fly through the air, still connected by the tasty worm and safe inside the nest. The nest falls on a tilted steel beam and they slide along it towards the edge. It stops, tilting towards the abyss. The two hatchlings don't mind. They occupied with the worm, safe and sound in the nest. The harrier spots her offspring and dives to get them. Just in time, she grabs the nest with both claws. The hatchlings squeal with glee, and the relieved mother looks for a new place too, but the nest, while evading cranes, beams, and wind gushes. I have to read that again. The hatchlings squeal with glee, and the relieved mother looks for a new place too, but the nest, while evading cranes, beams, and wind gushes. That seems a little bit off in the grammar there. Then the bottom of the nest gives in. One hatchling falls, and with the worm, he pulls the other towards the hole. Mother notices, too late. She can't help, not with the wind and the cranes. The two hatchlings look into each other's eyes and let go of the worm. The harrier has to pull up and looks back. The little one is out of reach. The hatchling falls and looks around. The worm passes him, smiling and enjoying his freedom. The ground approaches. Shortly before impact, a giant gush of steam from a vent slows the hatchling down. Let's call him Scrap. With big round eyes, he gazes at the cars and people around him. Gravity returns and Scrap vanishes through the vent, and from the deep a muffled splash reveals his fate. The harrier circles and building, still looking for her son. The harrier circles the building, still looking for her son. Okay, so we already have humor here. We have very strong archetypal characters there, and the mother with the child, and the relationships are very, very clear here, and we feel for them in this scene already. And I would say that the humor has a lot of slapstick here, which is very common in this kind of animation. If you think about Ice Age and the like. Okay, exterior streets. Moments later, soft, helpless cheeping and swooshing water can be heard through the manhole covers along the road leading to the distant Central Park. Exterior, the lake, dusk. The sun sets behind the impressive New York skyline. Scrap lies unconscious on the shore of the lake in Central Park. He is barely breathing. A sound in the bushes. Two dark shadows slowly approach. Cut 2. Central Park day. A close-up of Scrap's face. He is an adolescent harrier with light-colored feathers and a heart of gold. It is impossible not to like him. He moves very fast. The wind blows through his fluffy feathers. He is on the hunt. Skip, a cocky young squirrel with a do-first, think-later attitude, runs for his life. Scrap has his eyes set on him. He is close, very close. Reveal. Scrap is not flying, he runs. Then, Scrap trips and falls over. Excuse me. He tumbles downhill faster and faster, overtaking Skip. Skip stops, turns around and starts shouting. Cheater! He runs after him, laughing. Scrap keeps tumbling faster and faster, heading for a bunch of squirrel girls, but they jump out of his way. They are furious. Skip smirks at them, trying to be charming. Sorry, ladies, I'd love to talk, but he's on a roll. Then Scrap crashes into a tree and his beak gets stuck in the trunk. Skip laughs out loud, mumbling. I'm fine, Skip, thanks for asking. Skip pulls Scrap from the tree and puts him back on his feet. Thanks. Hilarious, even for your standards. This calls for a new word, something huge. I need time to think. Fist bump. Technically paw and wing bump. Scrap sneers. Very interesting way to phrase that. We will come back later to this line, I guess. Technically paw and wing bump. At least I won this time. No, you didn't. You rolled down the wrong side of the hill. Come on, I really thought I had you. Skip shakes his head. You didn't. Skip starts dancing on one foot. His victory dance. And it's time to go home, I'm sure. Mom and Dad are worried sick. You're such a spoil sport. Whose turn is it? I think it's mine. Okay then, I count to 10. But no cheating this time. Scrap smirks and starts to run. Exterior Central Park. Skip and Scrap race each other across the park. They are greeted by many of the park's inhabitants, other squirrels, hedgehogs and rabbits. Skip overtakes Scrap, smiling, and takes a shortcut by jumping from a little bridge to the road beyond it. Scrap tries to follow, but it's too high. He looks down. The ground gets blurry. He has to take the way around. Skip smirks. Interior Squirrel Den. The two rascals reach their home. A nice and cozy squirrel den inside a large tree that has everything a squirrel needs. Bernard, Skip's caring father and Scrap's stepfather, eats a walnut that Holly, their loving mother, just opened. Hey boys, just in time for dinner. Skip and Scrap jump towards the nuts and start eating. Bernard and Holly watch them, smiling. Skip starts to talk with his mouth full. You really missed out on something. Scrap got stuck in a tree today. We raced and then he rolled down the hill and then bam, it was. Bernard looks at Scrap. Everything okay? Smiling. Not really. He beat me again. Skip bursts out. Scrapalicious, that's it. Bernard, Holly and Scrap throw him an irritated look. Skip is proud though. Bernard pats Scrap on the back. Holly smiles. You should be more, Skip cuts in, imitating Holly, careful. Scrap smirks and even Holly has to smile a bit. Skip is done with his walnut and takes another one. Can we go climbing later, Dad? Bernard gives Holly an innocent look. She slightly nods, smiling. No, we're not climbing later. Skip and Scrap look disappointed. We go now. First one at the great oak wins. Bernard runs out of the den. The boys devour their nut in one gulp, kiss their mother on the cheek and run after him. Holly smiles and shakes her head. Sometimes I wonder who's the bigger child. Exterior sheep meadow moments later. Bernard, Skip and Scrap race across the park. Skip is ahead and Scrap is right behind him. Bernard in third place, right behind them. They emerge from the trees into sheep meadow. Scrap is closing in on Skip and Bernard smiles. Then Bernard sees a shadow above them. He runs faster and tries to pull his sons back to the trees. He grabs Skip, but Scrap is out of reach, and it takes him a second to realize what's going on. Skip and Bernard hide next to a tree. Bernard whispers, "Don't move, Scrap." What? Skip wants to say something, but Bernard stops him and points at the sky. Skip understands. A harrier closes in on Scrap and circles. Bernard holds his breath. Scrap looks up and the Harrier looks down at him. Bernard is petrified, Bernard is petrified, but then the Harrier flies away. What's wrong? Bernard checks the sky to make sure it is safe. He looks around nervously. That was a close one. Interior squirrel den night. Holly prepares the den for night time by arranging hay into sleeping places. Skip and Scrap try to help, but they are in the way. Bernard is sitting in his corner of the den thinking. That thing today, Dad, why didn't it attack me? Bernard hesitates. Holly gives him a look. Didn't you tell us that we have to hide when we see them? I guess Scrap doesn't have to hide. Really? But why did you hide then? Those birds are still dangerous. Holly is done with the beds. Bedtime, boys. Skip lies into the hay. That bird could have eaten us. We were lucky it didn't see us. Bernard sighs and walks over and starts to tuck Skip in. Scrap is speechless and stares at his father. Really? So it would have eaten you but let me live? Holly intervenes. Nobody was going to eat anybody today. Now lie down, Scrap. Scrap hesitates, but then he lies down next to Skip. I could never eat you. Holly tucks him in. Of course not. Skip sniggers. No question, I'd outrun you with 2 broken legs. Good night. Sleep tight. Good night, boys. Lights out. Through the open ceiling in the middle of the tree trunk, Skip and Scrap get a glimpse at the night sky. Scrap points at a random star. Do you ever wonder how it is out there? In the city? No, up there. Skip turns towards Scrap. If I had wings, I'd use them for more than rolling through the dirt. They both laugh, but Scrap's laugh is a little forced. There is sadness in his eyes. Do you wonder how it's up there? Scrap turns away from his brother. A figure behind the door, Bernard. He heard everything. Very interesting development. Sorry for all the tongue twisters, not intentional. Yeah, I noticed that as well. Skip and Scrap for etc. It's a bit of a tongue breaker, but probably just for me because it's English and these sounds are not natural for my tongue. So I have to be a bit, more focused on my spelling. So far, it's very interesting. We have a very, very different kind of father-son relationship there, brother-brother relationship there, mother-son relationship there. It's dramatic, it's personal, but it's also funny. There's also humor behind this. And I think we all can see where this is going. Like we know what has to happen right now, and that makes it very suspenseful. So already some great setup there. Exterior big tree near sheep meadow day. Bernard stands on a big branch of a large tree with Scrap next to him looking afraid. Just close your eyes and flap. And if I don't want to? You haven't even tried yet. Scrap looks down. The ground gets blurry. I won't and I can't. Not with this attitude. But, no buts, just try it. Scrap flaps his wings, half-assed, 3 times and stops again. So I tried. Can we go home now? That's not trying. Bernard pushes him over the edge. This is. Cut 2. Interior squirrel den later. Scrap lies bruised in the den. Holly is attending to his bruises with Bernard next to him. Skip smiles gleefully. And then Dad pushed Scrap and he fell down like a nut from a tree. Bam! Holly gives Bernard a reproachful look. How could you? I'm sorry, but I thought he might, next time I just have to prepare him better. Holly and Scrap in unison. Next time? Skip's smiling has turned into a loud laughter. He has to learn how to fly. From you? Bernard shakes his head. Someone has to teach him and I don't see anyone else. Scrap, fed up with the conversation, walks toward the exit. Exterior sheep meadow night. Scrap lies flat on the ground, staring at the full moon illuminating the night. A flock of ducks fly by. A sound in the bushes. I can hear you, Dad. Bernard emerges from the bushes. Sorry, I always forget how good your hearing is. I don't want to talk. Bernard sits down next to him. We can do this the easy or the hard way. Your choice. Scrap hesitates. He is angry and looks at his useless wings. I can really see how this works. You're trying to turn me into something I'm not. I know I'm not like you. I can't see that. I'm not supposed to run around the park and climb trees, but I just can't. A long pause. Fly? Scrap turns and looks at him with tears in his eye. We don't want to change you, son. We love you just the way you are, but someday that won't be enough. All the animals have one thing in common. We need the company of our own kind. Mom and I won't be there forever, and your brother will always. Scrap smiles thinly and rolls his eyes. Bernard smiles back. What if I don't want to? My kind clearly didn't want me. Why should I want to be like them? All we want is for you to be happy, and I think flying might do that. Scrap frowns. Let's go home. It's cold out here, which reminds me of another thing all animals have in common. Nobody likes to freeze one's bum off. Okay, until this point we have read over 10 pages so far. We have a family with an adopted child, and this adopted child belongs to a different kind of animal. We have humor in the script, we have comedy in the script, but we have also drama there, and we have also action, because we know that there's training going to be involved. We already saw a training scene go haywire, like the sun just dropping like a stone. So the training was used for comedic relief. And yeah, I would say it's an action comedy so far. It started with a lot of comedy in the opening sequence, which was like an action overture scene, which often isn't connected to the rest. And it's similar here. There is a slight connection there, but it's not a full-fledged connection, I would say. And it's not necessary, so it works beautifully here. We have the slapstick opening, and the slapstick opening introduces us to the action going on. It introduces us to the comedy going on. It introduces us to the stakes going on, so the dramatic aspect is already there. We know that there's a mother caring for her children with the eggs, and there's a life or death situation going on immediately. But it's also in a cute kind of animation style. I can read that from the script already. So we know that this is meant in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. Okay, so the father is a kind of mentor figure here, but he knows that he is at his limits and that the son has to leave the nest and that he has to go out into the world, which might introduce an adventure plot in the story, like a journey that the main character has to go on. And maybe his brother is going to accompany him there. I don't know. It could be. So far, we don't know. All we know is that this might happen now. Good summary. That was basically the intention of these 10 pages. Okay, cool. So I can tell you right now that the intention worked. And yeah, so what your intention was came through in the pages, on the pages. There's a saying, whatever isn't on the page isn't going to be on the stage. So if you have an intention in your story, in your script, and it's not in the writing, not in the scenes, then it's never going to be in the movie. And this is very true. So you have to put all your money into the writing, into the description, into the dialogue. And I would say that this is here already. let's go deeper. Let's go into the scenes. Okay, the first scene is Central Park. And of course, this is an area, this is an arena for this story. The Central Park is a public space, a public place. And action movies are often set in a public place because the hero has to make a stand in front of the society. If what he's doing, if his actions are not seen by anybody, he can't be judged by the society. And the action hero, he wants to be judged by the society. He wants to be accepted by the society. That's the basic thematic relevance of the action story there. So this is a perfect arena there. We have the Empire State Building, which is a symbol already in this story. A symbol for height. My pronunciation, excuse me. Sometimes I'm losing it. I'm going back and forth between German and English in these last few days. Okay, so on top of the Empire State Building, there's the nest. And we already have the height, we have the Empire State Building, and we have the squirrel place beneath. So there's a status difference there. And of course, our hero will want to rise in the end. He wants to achieve the top status by being able to make use of all his abilities, by being able to fly. I think we can already read this into the story there. Symbolism is very important for your script. You always have a whole net of symbols in your story, and these symbols, they play off of each other, like a character plays off of another character. Okay, like I said, we have the kind of screwball thing going on, like the comedic aspect of these opening pages. And I want to address the style of the writing. We have the reveals. So Gregor, he put in reveal and then what is going to be revealed. This is a good way in a script to make it clear that we are using cinematic techniques. Like we have a close-up on something and then we pull back and we see that we are somewhere completely different. This is a reveal. A reveal can be a pullback. It can be pulling up, pulling down. You can have different camera movements to show that something is there that wasn't there before. It's a common technique, and the way it's used here, it comes back again and again, so it's consistent. And I told this in the last episode, I think. Whatever you do, if you're doing it consistently, this shows the reader that you are someone who knows his craft, and it builds confidence in your writing skills. Okay, so there are always these double lines here, indicators of different shots. And for example, the Harrier flies along Fifth Avenue, the worm's still safe in her beak. So you see the Harrier flying, then maybe a detail of the worm, then she gets dangerously close to the ground. It's another shot, but she pulls up along a huge construction site and in time lapse, so you have these camera movements. You can follow along. This works beautifully. Okay, so what I would say here is maybe you could make it clearer that we are in an animated movie here. Because there was one line, I think, near the end of this opening where we know that he's happy. I have to look for happy. Let me... Or he's smiling or something? No. Smile. Holly smiles. Smiling a lot. This is also a good technique if you want people to feel for your main character, have him smile a lot. This connects you to the main character. Very important technique. Have the main character smile, especially in the opening. Because you have to bring this early so we understand what's going on. Okay, where are we? Okay, I can't find it. I have to look it up. It was in the early opening. Ground approaches. Ah, here, there it is. The hatchling falls and looks around. The worm passes him, smiling and enjoying his freedom. I think a smiling worm, there we know that it's an animated movie. We know that a worm can't be smiling. We have never seen a worm smile. But we haven't seen, I think we haven't seen the face of the worm before. So this is where you have a little shift going on in this line. We are on the second page, of course, but I would add some line where the worm is maybe afraid or looks afraid or something. I don't know if you have it in there. Maybe you have it in there and I overread this. Let's read it again. Where are we? Dirt. A blinding ray of sunshine shines on a tiny worm. Then the beak of a female harrier, a long-winged, long-tailed hawk, violently grabs the helpless worm and soars into the clear blue sky. Okay, the worm is helpless. It's an indicator of the reaction the worm is going to have there. But I think it could be a little bit clearer that he has a face and that we have different characters with faces, animals with expressions beyond the limits of a regular movie. That could be added there, I guess. And other than that, it's clear that these are not the main characters because of the over-the-top action, I guess. And also a close-up of Scrap's face. He's an adolescent harrier with light-colored feathers and a heart of gold. Okay, so this is the character introduction of Scrap. He is a harrier adolescent with light-colored feathers and a heart of gold. It is impossible not to like him. So there is a shift between the harrier we have seen, the bird we have seen that is kind of bad because of eating worms, okay? And now we have this harrier and he's friendly and has a heart of gold. So you want to contrast these two animals of the same kind. It is impossible not to like him. I get a feeling of Forrest Gump kind of character there. Maybe this is intentional, like he has a kind of naivete and goes about life like a child. He's like a child, even though he's adolescent. Okay, so there's also an indicator of how the character progression is going to be, how the character arc is going to be. So it's a coming-of-age story. The bird has to become an adult. He has to find out who he is, his identity. It's a journey into the self. Okay, so there's the inner side of the adventure plot that will probably come later. So it's probably going to be some kind of road movie later on. And yeah, so those two friends, they have this fist bump, the wing, what's it called? The wing and the paw bump. Is this supposed to be an awkward scene, like they're like awkwardly bumping, or are they like, yeah, come on? It could be both, I guess. Spot on, says Gregor. Okay, cool. Thank you. It's great to hear from a writer that my analysis or my analytical skills are spot on. I like that. So, do you have any questions, Gregor? Coming of age adventure is what he's saying. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so you are combining an adventure story with a drama, but it's also an action movie. You have all these action beats, you have the training, you have maybe a big finale where he's flying, you have an opening overture scene, you have opponents on the way later on maybe, but you will probably have several opponents along the way, like in an adventure plot. And you are adding maybe the friendship with the brother later on, even though it could be that he's leaving behind his family, but I guess that he's taking his brother with him on the adventure. That would be my guess. So you have a buddy relationship there in the beginning already. An unlikely pair is what they say. An odd couple in the buddy story. And buddy stories are a combination of adventure, no, not adventure, but action. Then you have a friendship story, which is a sub-story of the love story, and a comedy. And comedy is very strong here. It's very strong because it's awkward. The bird who doesn't want to fly is a very strange thing. There's a character twist there. The bird who doesn't want to fly. And that, I think, makes it high concept. You have the story of a bird being adopted by squirrels, not wanting to fly, but having to move out to learn how to fly. Yeah, I would say that's a high concept story. Always remember that a high concept can be a plot twist or a character twist. Here, it's definitely a character twist. And the problems with high concept stories are that you only have a few scenes in the high concept, if you think about it. You have the scene before, then the twist, and then the scene later. But stretching it to a whole movie is really hard. So a high concept doesn't make it easier for you to write a script. It's better to have one, but it's not making it easier for you. It's an American Tale meets Finding Nemo, but with some twists. Yeah. Okay, I can see the Finding Nemo. I can also see a lot of other influences there, if you ask me. We can talk about it freely. I mean, it's very interesting to see the influences of Madagascar, for example, to see the influences of Kung Fu Panda, I would say there. I can also see Toy Story in it, a few callbacks to that. But I also see like movies like Forrest Gump, other comedies that go beyond the genre, transcend the genre structures. People call it elevated genres, so don't have to be technical about that word. And it's really hard for me to find things that don't work so far. If anything, I would say you could move it a little bit further and bring the first act turning point a bit up into the 9-page, 10-page realm, so that the adventure starts a little bit earlier. I guess you could do that, but it's not a necessity in any case. And otherwise I would have to read further to tell more about the script and about the possibilities there. But I think it's a beautiful opening just make the characters a bit more like in an animated movie, make them more pop out on the page, I guess. So that we realize the worm has a face. And then I think it's great. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. Now, Rakiel, maybe you have a question about it? And we can talk about this some more. Otherwise, I could also go into the dialogue, maybe, if you want to go over that. Would that be interesting to you? That we could do that. Let's look at it. So the opening is basically a silent movie with all the slapstick. And you put in there a construction worker saying, "Watch out." But it's not really necessary. And I think maybe it would even be better if there was no dialogue in the opening scene at all. Just some music. Maybe you could put a song in there or something. No questions. Okay, good. I'm just continuing talking about it. So when does the dialogue start? Okay, so the first word is cheater. An indicator that this is a moral argument. He is attacking his brother, his adopted brother. And every time a character brings up a fault in another character, it's a moral argument. So there are several layers to dialogue. First, there's the layer of no dialogue. The scene works the way it works because people do stuff, action. Then comes the layer of functional dialogue. That means a character says what he wants directly or indirectly. Like, if I want you to drive me to my girlfriend with your car because I don't have a car, and I tell you, can you drive me to the supermarket, please? And then I tell you the address, and we drive there, and it turns out that it was not the address of the supermarket, but my girlfriend. Then I did an indirect approach to getting what I want. I lied. But a character telling what he wants is the first layer of functional dialogue. Then above that, you have the layer of the moral dialogue. Someone attacks someone for doing something, or someone says something about how you should live in the world. Well, look at me. I'm doing it this and that way, and this is the best way to do it. This is moral dialogue. And here we already have the third layer of dialogue. He calls his half-brother, his adoptive brother, it's not a stepbrother really, a cheater, which is a strong opening for a dialogue scene. Okay, then Skip says, "Sorry ladies, I'd love to talk to you, but he's on a roll." So already lifting himself up again, also moral. And Scrap says, "I'm fine, Skip, thanks for asking." So another attack on his brother on the opposite side. Now he attacks him for not asking how he is. And again, thanks. And the brother says, "Hilarious, even for your standards. This calls for a new word, something huge. I need time to think." Okay, hilarious, even for your standards. Another attack. So very moral dialogue already. At least I won this time. No, you didn't. You rolled down the wrong side of the hill. So they have an argument who won the race. And this is very strong because it's a brotherly relationship. It's a buddy relationship, like I mentioned before. And this is not really about much, I would say, on the surface. But if you look deeper, it's a very, very deep argument going on there. Who is doing it the right way? Who is doing it the wrong way? But in the end, the conflict is not, there are no high stakes involved. So it's not about life or death, it's about who's right. And you do that in a buddy comedy often because these two are friends, they are brothers, and the relationship lives from these arguments. They are not deep in the sense of the stakes, but they are deep in the sense of how you should live your life. It's interesting, it's a good start, and it's comedic, it's funny, it works. So don't overdo that if you're writing an action comedy and put in life or death stakes, because then you would ruin the buddy relationship. It doesn't work anymore. No high stakes yet. Okay, interesting. So the relationship between the brothers is coming under high pressure throughout the story. So that's going to be interesting. Or is the brother the companion and the high stakes are just for him, is it Skip or Scrap? Now I'm confused. Who is the winged guy? It's Scrap. Scrap is the winged guy. Yeah, it's Skyscraper, so I forgot. Okay, so in the title we already have the skyscraper, so the symbol is already in the title. Rising high into the sky, flying, getting up, raising the social stand. This is all the symbolic meaning of the movie. Okay, interesting. So you are going beyond the buddy relationship there. So it's not a buddy relationship throughout the movie. You use it as a red herring in a way that you switch it into a real conflict and going from the comedy to the drama. But is there comedic relief throughout the story? Or do you just switch and do you lose the comedy in the later half of the movie? How do you produce comedy in the middle of the script? Because the way I would read the movie so far, it's going to be a comedy throughout. And this is just one aspect. I mean, there can be different aspects of comedy. You have the slapstick in the opening scene. You can still do that in the movie. And make the brotherly rivalry, another tongue breaker for me, into a dramatic relationship later on. Okay. I really like the father figure. He's great. He wants to teach his son. He realizes that the son has to move out. And I also like the mother. The relationships between the family is great. Sometimes I wonder who's the bigger child. This is also an attack on values, childish values. Yeah, very strong moral dialogue. What I don't see yet in the dialogue is the fourth layer of dialogue is key phrases. But maybe they are there, or maybe you can, you see the broken legs, for example. Maybe that comes back later. Just close your eyes and flap. Okay. So Gregor writes, there is enough comedy, but we separate the brothers during the movie. Okay, I understand. So this is another technique. So it's not a buddy movie in that sense. Because if it was a buddy movie, you would move that line through. If you separate them, you make this just his story, and you use techniques of the buddy story for the opening to create the relationships of these characters and to draw these characters in an interesting light. Spoilers, don't get too attached to the family. Okay, yeah, very interesting. So the stakes are going to get higher. Okay, I'm very interested in reading this further. I read all the scripts I get to the end. And yeah, I mean, what about you guys? I don't see how many people are in the live stream here. I can't really see that. It's, again, YouTube doesn't help me there. Okay, there are 5 people right in the live stream. Okay. So I think most people don't have a YouTube account and can't write anything. That's probably the case here. So if you watch this later on, tell us what you think in the comment section below. Give this channel a subscribe if you want to know when we are live next time with the next script, and like this video and share it with your colleagues, with your friends, so they can all benefit from reading screenplays during this quarantine, during this lockdown. I hope you guys had a lot of fun here, you learned something, and you are here next time with me when we are reading the next script. Thank you, Gregor. Thank you, Orlindo, for the script. And I'll see you guys next time, which is going to be next week. Also Tuesday, also 3 p.m. CEST, Central European Standard Time. If you want the live stream at another time, just let me know. Shoot me a message. I don't know when is the best time because there are people all around the world watching this. I know that people from Turkey watch this, people from France watch this from time to time, also from England and the United States. So it's very hard to find common ground. Tell me what you think, and I hope I see you all guys next time. Always remember, you're not alone out there. We're all out here writing our screenplays. Thank you very much.